Hey, what's up, Lightbolt Joe here. Today we are going to discuss the 2000 horror film Final Destination. So this is the first film in the 5-film series. The first 3 movies were turned into books. There's also some comics within this franchise after the first film. This stars Devon Sawa, Sean William Scott, a slew of other people are in this. The character of Clear, played by Ali something, she's in another of the Final Destination films. Devon is the main character of this. He plays Alex Browning in this, and he's not in the other ones, but his defeating death and figuring out the pattern, the chain, is what then, carries on to the other ones. So this is it's an hour and 38 minutes long. It is very hard to watch this without being disturbed as a millennial who lives on Long Island, because this film takes place, the plane explosion starts out at JFK, and JFK is right on Long Island. So finding out the origins of this film, which I didn't really know, I knew there were similarities to it, but I didn't know the full origins. I had to actually look into this, and the footage of the plane crash in the movie are real life news footage. So in 1996, there was a plane crash right off of Center Moriches on Long Island. 12 minutes after a plane took off from JFK, exploded. The parts and such, crashed all throughout southern tip part of Center Moriches. And so, it was a massive thing. It was all over the news. They had to, recover whatever they could to figure out what the hell happened. And it was just, they couldn't, it was not missiles struck. There was no bomb evidence. They just factored mechanical error, fuselage stuff, right? So there was a French club from a high school in Pennsylvania who was actually on this flight. They were going to a layover in Paris and then going to Rome. And no, there was no survivors. There was like 230 casualties, something like that, on the plane. That was in 96. 2000 is when the film came out. 2001 is when all of the 9/11 terrorist attacks happened, which is another 5-borough and Long Island based. Everyone has a story of that, and that's another hard thing to watch. So watching the actual footage of plane crashes into the buildings, and for 2001 9/11, right? Watching the aftermath, salvaging of the plane explosion from 96, which is actual news footage, Long Island news footage, that they then took and put in the film as the Flight 180 exploding from JFK right after takeoff, not 12 minutes later, but right after takeoff. It's just disturbing. It's disturbing watching it as a millennial, living those experiences in real life, seeing them fictionalizationalized. I don't know the proper term for that. But what's interesting about this series as a whole, and I don't remember which one it was, whether it's the 3rd or 4th one, but there's a certain highway Rube Goldberg effect of death, right? Cheating death, where there's logs come off this tractor trailer and start, killing people on the highway. That terrifies my age group, where if there's a log truck driving in front of us on highways, it doesn't matter what part of the country we're in now, because it affects us as a full generation. We do not stay behind that truck for that subconscious fear because of these films. We then move to another lane. But the footage of the plane salvaging the 9/11 attacks, 18 months after this film came out. This film came out March of 2000. 9/11 was September of 2001. So that was 18 months after the film first came out. It's just too close to home to not be disturbed. Like, I get chills watching this film. And it's interesting because these are films, you would watch. When did this come out? This came out in 2000, so I was 10. So I was in, 4th grade? March 2000, I was in 4th grade. So figure 5th grade and on, I was actually watching this at sleepovers, when you're not supposed to watch horror films, and it's 2 a.m. and you're having a sleepover with your friends, and you're terrified, and it's what you did. It's what you did at the end of elementary school, middle school, going to high school, and like that. These were these films. We would watch these films, we would get scared because it wasn't an actual villain. It's not a slasher going around and killing people. It's just death. You see this blobby, shadowy, translucent death figure, and then death happens, right? Stuff happens. Rube Goldberg effects happens, when this hits into that, which falls this way and cuts that thing, causing this, right? So to have each individual character go through that different chain of events, because they skipped death, and now death is circumventilating and coming back and killing them. It's a matter of, can you actually cheat death? Can you skip the cycle? What happens, right? So to have Devin's character, Alice's character, and Kier's character, I forget Carter, the three of them at the very end in Paris, and then the circle coming back, what happens next, right? Leading into the second film, which I don't remember all of them verbatim. I remember specific death scenes here and there, but not specifically that highway scene with the logs, but not everything as a whole. So I'm glad we're going into this. We only came to this because A, it's a horror franchise we haven't talked about, and we're starting to get back into that. And we've been on a mini Devin Sawa marathon, and Devin Sawa is an incredible actor, and watching him go from a kid to a young adult from a kid to a teen to young adults to an adult, it's interesting watching him. Like, he doesn't get as much credit as he deserves, and I need him to do more. I need him to be cast in more stuff, because the acting of this individual is incredible to begin with, and watching him in this particular film, the fear, that terror that he elicits, that not depression, but loss, that sadness, that confusion, that the crying, like, it's very rare, and I say this a few times, there's very certain actors and actresses, when certain actors or actresses scream or cry and you feel it, that means they're doing a damn good job. They are immensely talented at their craft, and they do not get the credit the credit is due. Devin is one of those characters. When he comes home from the airport with his parents, and he drops his bag in his room, and he's looking around, and he's starting to get upset, and he's just breathing heavy, and then he grabs like that, and like the choking, like, that's hard to do. That's hard to do, and it's hard to be convincing for it. And he just does an amazing job transitioning up to that level of emotion, letting the fireworks go, the tears go, and the aftermath of trying to figure out what happens next. It's very rare to see that in a human in general, let alone, talent. And he is so talented. I don't know why he doesn't get as much credit as he deserves, because he's so talented. So Final Destination, awesome film, terrifying film, especially for us locals. And yeah, on to the next one. Let's see who dies next. Stay tuned. Mucho mahalo.